The Galactic Council chambers fell silent as Ambassador Zathara's words echoed through the crystalline halls. The towering insectoid, representative from the Hive Collective, clicked his mandibles in what passed for amusement among his species. Around the circular assembly, dozens of alien delegates shifted in their specialized seating, their various forms of communication creating a subtle symphony of clicks, whistles, and electromagnetic pulses. "You cannot be serious," rumbled Gorte, the massive stone-like being who spoke for the Granite Confederacy. His voice resonated through the chamber like grinding boulders. "These humans, they barely qualify as a spacefaring species. Their technology is primitive, their military tactics crude, and their physical capabilities laughable compared to any proper warrior race." The holographic display in the center of the chamber showed detailed scans of human settlements across 3 star systems. Small colonies, mining operations, and research stations dotted the images like tiny specks against the vast darkness of space. To the assembled representatives of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations, humanity appeared exactly as Gort described, weak, scattered, and utterly insignificant. Zathara's compound eyes glittered as he gestured toward the display with one of his forearms. "Observe their military installations," he chittered, his translator converting his natural clicks into the common tongue. "Minimal defensive capabilities. Their largest warships barely qualify as frigates by our standards. Their soldiers carry projectile weapons that fire metal slugs, technology we abandoned millennia ago." A ripple of what could only be described as laughter passed through the assembly. The ethereal collective's representative of being of pure energy contained within a shimmering field pulsed with colors that indicated mockery. Even the normally stoic delegates from the machine consciousness flickered their optical sensors in, patterns suggesting amusement. "Their expansion into our space has been noted," continued Zathara, pulling up star charts that showed human colonies spreading slowly outward from their home system. "They have established footholds in 17 systems that we had marked for our own development. The Hive Collective has been patient, but our patience has limits." Admiral Corks of the Predator Alliance leaned forward, his scaled hide reflecting the chamber's ambient light. His species had evolved from apex predators, and every movement spoke of deadly grace and barely contained violence. "If they are so weak," he hissed, his forked tongue tasting the air, "why have we not simply removed them?" A single battle fleet could sweep aside their entire civilization in a matter of cycles. "Because," interjected High Counselor Vexani of the Psionic Dominion, her mental voice touching every mind in the chamber simultaneously, "the Galactic Accords require justification for aggressive action against developing species. We cannot simply exterminate them without cause." Zathara's mandibles clicked in satisfaction, which brings us to the purpose of today's session. The humans have been expanding beyond their allocated space. They have established mining operations in the Kepler 442 system, which was clearly designated as a buffer zone in the original contact agreements. This constitutes a violation of galactic law. The display shifted to show detailed scans of the Kepler 442 system. 3 rocky planets orbited a stable star and human industrial complexes dotted the surfaces of 2 of them. Automated cargo ships move between the planets and a small space station, carrying refined metals and processed materials. "The operation appears to be purely civilian," observed Counselor Nexus 7 of the Machine Consciousness, his synthetic voice perfectly modulated. "Approximately 3,000 human workers and their families. Minimal military presence detected." Minimal Gore-Tex laugh was like an avalanche. "Our scans show fewer than 50 human soldiers across the entire system. They call them Marines as if giving them a fancy title makes them warriors. My youngest offspring could defeat them in single combat." The assembled delegates murmured their agreement. Human Marines had become something of a joke throughout the galaxy. Intelligence reports described them as poorly equipped soldiers who relied on primitive tactics and outdated equipment. Their training was supposedly rigorous by human standards, but those standards were considered barely adequate for a planetary security force, let alone proper military units. "I propose we issue an ultimatum," declared Zathara, his forearms spreading wide in a gesture of authority. "The humans have 7 cycles to withdraw from the Kepler 442 system. If they refuse, we are justified in removing them by force. A simple police action to enforce galactic law." "And who will carry out this police action?" asked Admiral Corex, his predatory smile revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. "The Predator Alliance would be honored to demonstrate proper military technique to these primitive humans." "The Hive Collective claims right of enforcement," Zether responded quickly. Our forces are already positioned in nearby systems. We can have a battle group at Kepler 442 within 2 cycles. High Counselor Vexani's mental presence carried a note of caution. The humans may surprise us. Their psychological profiles show remarkable resilience and adaptability. Perhaps we should not underestimate them entirely. The suggestion was met with a chorus of dismissive sounds from around the chamber. Cortex laughter rumbled like distant thunder. Resilience, adaptability. These are the traits of prey species, not warriors. The humans survived on their homeworld not through strength, but through cowering in caves and running from real predators. Their own historical records support this assessment, added Counselor Nexus 7, accessing vast databases of human information. Humans spent most of their evolutionary history as scavengers and gatherers. When they did develop warfare, it was crude and inefficient. They fought each other with sticks and stones for thousands of years before discovering basic metallurgy. Zakara nodded his approval. The evidence is clear. Humanity is a young, weak species that has overextended itself through pure luck and the galaxy's tolerance. It is time to remind them of their place in the cosmic order. The vote was unanimous. The ultimatum would be delivered within 1 cycle, giving humanity 7 more cycles to withdraw from Kepler 442. If they refused, which most delegates considered unlikely given their obvious weakness, the Hive Collective would enforce galactic law with overwhelming force. As the session ended and delegates began filing out of the chamber, none of them noticed the small human observation probe hidden among the cosmic debris at the edge of the system. The probe had been recording everything, transmitting compressed data bursts back toward human space through a network of relay stations. In a small communications bunker on the moon, orbiting humanity's capital world, a junior technician named Sarah Martinez finished reviewing the intercepted transmissions. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for the emergency communication panel. This information needed to reach the highest levels of human command immediately. The galaxy was about to learn that they had made a critical error in their assessment of humanity. But that lesson would come at a price none of them were prepared to pay. The message reached Earth's Central Command within 18 hours of the Galactic Council's decision. Admiral Rebecca Chen stood in the Situation Room, surrounded by holographic displays showing every human settlement across known space. The weight of command had never felt heavier as she studied the alien ultimatum that had just arrived through official diplomatic channels. 7 days, she said quietly, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent 30 years rising through the ranks of humanity's space forces. They're giving us 7 days to abandon 3 years of work and 20 billion credits in infrastructure. General Marcus Stone, the grizzled commander of human colonial marines, stood beside her with his arms crossed. His scarred face told the story of a man who had seen combat on a dozen different worlds, fighting pirates, hostile wildlife, and the occasional territorial dispute with alien traders. They think we'll just pack up and leave with our tails between our legs. The intelligence reports from our probe are concerning, added Dr. Elena Vasquez, the head of Alien Intelligence Analysis. She pulled up detailed breakdowns of the Galactic Council's military capabilities. The Hive Collective alone has over 500 ships in their nearest battle group. Each of their cruisers outguns our best destroyer by a factor of 10. Admiral Chen nodded grimly. The numbers were sobering. Humanity's entire space navy consisted of 47 ships, most of them converted cargo vessels with military modifications. Against the combined might of galactic civilization, they might as well be throwing rocks at a mountain. What about the colonists? Asked Colonel Sarah Murphy, the Marine liaison for colonial operations. We've got 3,000 civilians in that system, including 800 children. Evacuation alone would take weeks, assuming the aliens give us safe passage, which they won't, General Stone replied. I've read enough alien tactical analyses to know they consider civilian casualties an acceptable cost of military operations. They'll target evacuation ships as readily as military vessels. The room fell silent as the implications sank in for all their technological advancement and industrial capability. Humanity remained the newest and weakest member of the galactic community. They had been tolerated, rather than welcomed, allowed to establish colonies and systems no one else wanted, and generally treated like poor relations at a family gathering. Admiral Chen activated her personal communication device. Get me Director Walsh at Special Operations Command. Priority Alpha clearance. The holographic projector shimmered to life, revealing the weathered face of Director James Walsh. His office was deliberately sparse. containing only the necessities for a man who had spent most of his career in places that officially didn't exist. Behind him, banks of monitoring equipment tracked operations across human space. Admir, Walsh said without preamble. I assume this is about the Galactic Council's ultimatum. You've seen the intelligence reports. My people intercepted the transmission before it reached your desk. We've been analyzing their tactical assessments of human capabilities. Walsh's expression remained neutral, but there was something in his eyes that Admiral Chen recognized from their years of working together. They've made some interesting assumptions about our military readiness. General Stone leaned forward, such as they believe our Marines are equivalent to their lowest-tier security forces. Their intelligence suggests our soldiers are poorly trained, inadequately equipped, and lacking combat experience. Walsh paused, accessing data on his terminal. They base this assessment on our performance in minor border skirmishes and anti-piracy operations. Dr. Vasquez frowned. Those assessments aren't entirely wrong. Our equipment is less advanced than theirs, and our training programs are based on human conflict scenarios, not galactic warfare. True, Walsh agreed, but they're missing some crucial information. Information we've been very careful not to share in our cultural exchanges and diplomatic reports. Admiral Chen felt a glimmer of hope. What kind of information? Walsh's screen shifted to display classified files marked with security clearances so high that most of the people in the room had never seen them. The aliens know about our recent conflicts. The Mars Rebellion, the Titan mining wars, the Belt Pirate campaigns. What they don't know is the details of how those conflicts were fought. The holographic display filled with tactical reports, casualty figures, and operational summaries. General Stone's eyes widened as he processed the information. Jesus Christ, Jim. Some of these operations are the Battle of Ceres Station. Walsh continued, highlighting a particular file. The aliens believe it was a minor police action against poorly organized criminals. They don't know that the Belt Pirates had military-grade weapons, fortified positions, and numerical superiority. They don't know that our Marines fought for 6 months in zero-gravity urban warfare, clearing tunnels and habitation modules one room at a time. Admiral Chen studied their reports with growing understanding. The Titan campaign officially listed as a mining dispute. Actually, a 3-year guerrilla war fought in one of the most hostile environments in the solar system. Surface temperatures of -180, methane storms that could strip hull plating, and rebels who had been preparing defensive positions for decades. Walsh pulled up combat footage that made several officers in the room grimace. Our Marines didn't just win. They adapted to conditions that would kill most alien species in minutes. Colonel Murphy was reading through personnel files, her expression growing more intense with each page. These aren't the same Marines the aliens think they're facing. Exactly, the aliens see our peacekeeping forces and assume that represents our full military capability. They don't know about the recon Marines, who spent 18 months tracking insurgents through the asteroid fields. They don't know about the drop shock battalions that specialize in hostile environment assault. They certainly don't know about the deep strike teams. General Stone's scarred face split into a predatory grin. The aliens think they're dealing with parade ground soldiers, when in reality, Walsh continued, they're about to encounter veterans of some of the most brutal combat in human history. Wars fought in environments where a single equipment failure means death against enemies who knew the terrain better than their own families. With limited resources and no possibility of retreat, the tactical implications were staggering. Admiral Chen began accessing personnel databases, cross-referencing the Marines stationed at Kepler 4E42 with their service records. What she found made her breath catch. Sergeant Major Rodriguez, she read aloud, Titan campaign veteran, 15 years of continuous combat operations, decorated for actions during the siege of New Babylon. She scrolled through more names. Staff Sergeant Chen, not related to me, expert in zero-gravity combat and hostile environment survival. Master Sergeant Thompson, former deep strike operative with classified mission records. The 50 Marines in the Kepler 442 system, General Stone said slowly, aren't garrison troops or colonial security. They're combat veterans with an average of 12 years of actual warfare experience each. Walsh nodded. And they're equipped with gear the aliens have never seen in action. Our kinetic weapons might be primitive by galactic standards, but they're designed for reliability in extreme conditions. Our armor is built to keep a human alive in environments that would kill most aliens just by existing there. Dr. Vasquez was running calculations on her tablet. The Hive Collective standard tactics rely on overwhelming firepower and technological superiority. Their soldiers are bred for specific combat roles and trained in rigid tactical doctrines. They've never faced an enemy that adapts in real time to changing conditions. More importantly, added Walsh, they've never faced an enemy that refuses to surrender. Galactic warfare is generally civilized. When defeat becomes inevitable, the losing side negotiates terms, humans. He paused, letting the implication hang in the air. Humans digen and fight until the last round is fired, finished General Stone. It's what we do. Admiral Chen felt the weight of command, shifting from burden to determination. The aliens expected humanity to flee or surrender when faced with overwhelming odds. They had no concept of what humans called going down fighting. Director Walsh, she said formally, I need a complete tactical assessment of our forces in the Kepler 442 system. Full combat readiness evaluation, environmental advantages, and defensive capabilities. How long can 50 Marines hold against a Hive Collective battle group? Walsh's smile was like winter ice. Admiral, with respect, you're asking the wrong question. What's the right question? The right question is, how many alien soldiers are those 50 Marines going to kill before this is over? The evacuation ships arrived at Kepler 442 on the 5th day after the ultimatum was delivered. From the bridge of the cargo vessel Lucky Strike, Captain Torres watched as families loaded their belongings onto transport craft that would carry them to safety. Children clung to their parents, confused by the sudden upheaval, but trusting that the adults knew what they were doing. That's the last civilian transport, reported his communications officer. All non-essential personnel are clear of the system. Torres nodded, but his attention was focused on the small figures moving with purpose across the mining platforms and space stations. The Marines weren't leaving. Despite direct orders from Colonial Command to withdraw with the civilians, the 50-member detachment had voted unanimously to remain behind. Sergeant Major Elena Rodriguez stood in the command center of Mining Platform Alpha, watching the evacuation ships disappear into hyperspace. Around her, the Marines of the 3rd Recon Battalion made final preparations for what everyone understood would be their last mission. The platform's industrial equipment had been converted into defensive positions, and every corridor had been rigged with improvised explosives. Sergeant Major called Corporal Kim from the communication station. Incoming transmission from the alien fleet. They're demanding to speak with our commanding officer. Rodriguez keyed her microphone. Patch it through. The main display flickered to life, revealing the insectoid features of Hive Commander Zalk. His compound eyes examined the human with what passed for curiosity among his species. When he spoke, his translator rendered his shittering into crisp mechanical words. Human soldier, he began, his tone carrying the dismissive confidence of someone addressing an inferior. I am Hive Commander Zalk of the Collective Battle Group Scythe. Your evacuation ships have departed, but our sensors indicate military personnel remain in this system. This is unacceptable. Rodriguez stood at parade rest, her expression neutral. Commander Zelthic, I'm Sergeant Major Elena Rodriguez, ranking Marine in this system. What can I do for you? You will immediately transport yourself and your remaining personnel to the nearest evacuation point. The Hive Collective is prepared to show mercy to those who comply with galactic law. That's very generous of you, Rodriguez replied, her voice carrying no emotion. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to decline your offer. Zalth's mandibles clicked in what his species considered confusion. Perhaps your translation device is malfunctioning. I am offering you the opportunity to preserve your lives. Surely you understand that your position is hopeless. Oh, I understand completely, Rodriguez said, glancing around at her Marines. 50 human soldiers against your entire battle group. Primitive weapons against advanced technology. No hope of reinforcement or retreat. She looked back at the alien commander. Sounds like Tuesday to me. The alien's confusion deepened. You just in the face of certain death. Commander, Rodriguez said, her voice taking on the tone of someone explaining basic concepts to a child. Let me help you understand something about humans. We've been the underdogs in every fight we've ever been in. Our entire evolutionary history is about surviving things that should have killed us. Bears' ice ages, plagues each other, and yet here we are talking to bugs from another star system. Zek's compound eyes flashed with anger. You dare insult the Hive Collective? Just stating facts. Your species evolved from hive-minded insects that work together for survival. Ours evolved from persistence hunters who chased prey across continents until it collapsed from exhaustion. Rodriguez smiled, and there was nothing friendly about the expression. Guess which one of us is better at not giving up? The transmission cut to static as Zek ended the communication in rage. Around the command center, the Marines continued their preparations with the calm efficiency of professionals who had done this many times before. Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen, no relation to Admiral Chen, was setting up his sniper position on the outer rim of Platform Alpha. His rifle was a human design, firing caseless ammunition at velocities that would have been considered excessive by Galactic standards. Beside him, his spotter ran calculations for shots across the vacuum of space. Range to the lead hive ship, Chen asked. 47,000 mem in closing, replied Corporal Yates. Standard collective cruiser approximately 800 meters in length. Target profile suggests weak points at the engine assemblies and command tower. Chen adjusted his scope and settled into position. Copy that. First shot goes to the command tower when they get to 30,000 mem. 3 platforms away, Master Sergeant Thompson was preparing his specialty, demolitions. The mining equipment scattered throughout the system had been repurposed into weapons that would have made his instructors proud. Asteroid processing charges, industrial cutting lasers, and chemical refinement systems had all been converted into instruments of destruction. Thompson, to all units, he broadcast on the tactical frequency. Packages are set on platforms Charlie, Delta, and Echo. When the bugs board, they're going to get a warm welcome. The Hive Collective battle group consisted of 12 ships, 8 cruisers, 3 destroyers, and a massive dreadnought that served as the command vessel. Against any conventional enemy, it was overwhelming firepower against 50 human Marines who had spent years learning to fight with inadequate resources in impossible situations. It was about to become a very expensive lesson. Rodriguez, to all units, the Sergeant Major broadcast, remember your training. These aliens have never faced an enemy that doesn't fight by their rules. They expect us to form up in organized units and exchange fire at respectful distances. They expect us to surrender when casualties mount. She paused, checking her own equipment one final time. They have no idea what a human Marine with nothing to lose can accomplish. Show them. The alien fleet moved into attack formation with the precise coordination that marked Hive Collective operations. Zauthek stood on his command bridge, watching as his ship surrounded the human positions. His tactical displays showed no significant defensive systems, no capital ship weapons, no fighter screens. Just 50 humans scattered across 3 mining platforms and 2 space stations. Commander, reported his tactical officer, the humans appear to be using industrial equipment as weapons. Sensors detect modified mining lasers and chemical processing units. Zalfsi's mandibles clicked in amusement. They are trying to fight a space battle with construction tools. Begin boarding operations. Take them alive if possible. The Council will want to question them about human military capabilities. The first Hive assault shuttles launched from their cruisers, loaded with warrior caste soldiers bred specifically for combat. Each warrior stood 3 mem tall, armed with energy weapons and protected by carapace armor that could deflect most projectile weapons. Against human Marines, they should have been unstoppable. Staff Sergeant Chen acquired his first target as the lead shuttle approached Platform Alpha. His rifle fired a single caseless round that crossed $47,000 of space in just under 3 seconds. The projectile struck the shuttle's navigation array with enough kinetic energy to penetrate 3 layers of armor plating. The shuttle spun out of control, its pilot fighting to maintain stability as critical systems failed. Inside, 20 Hive warriors prepared for what their briefings had told them would be a simple police action against inferior opponents. They were about to discover that human Marines had a very different definition of inferior. Rodriguez watched the incoming shuttles and felt the familiar calm that settled over her before combat. She had fought in the Belt Wars, survived the Titan campaign, and led Marines through conflicts that had never made it into official records. This was just another day at the office. All units, she broadcast weapons free, show these bugs why humans are apex predators. The first Hive warriors burst through the airlock of Platform Alpha, with the confidence of predators entering a prey animal's den. Their 3-menor frames moved with practiced precision. Energy weapons charged and armor gleaming under the industrial lighting. 20 warriors in perfect formation, following doctrine that had conquered dozens of worlds. They made it exactly 4 meters before the corridor exploded. Master Sergeant Thompson had spent 3 days converting mining charges into directional explosives. using his 15 years of demolitions experience to turn industrial equipment into weapons of war. The blast that caught the lead warriors wasn't just an explosion. It was a carefully calculated application of force designed to maximize damage in a confined space. The surviving warriors stumbled through smoke and debris, their formation broken and their confidence shaken. That's when they met their first human Marine. Corporal Lisa Santos had been waiting in an alcove designed for equipment storage. Her assault rifle loaded with armor-piercing rounds that human engineers had developed for asteroid mining operations. The rounds were designed to penetrate dense rock formations, but they worked equally well in alien carapace armor. Her first burst caught 3 warrior center mass, the kinetic impact sending them tumbling in the low-gravity environment. Unlike the energy weapons favored by galactic civilizations, Santos's rifle produced no distinctive beam or flash, just the sudden, brutal impact of metal projectiles traveling at supersonic velocities. The surviving warriors tried to return fire, but Santos was already moving. She had spent 2 years fighting insurgents in the asteroid belt, learning to use zero-gravity and industrial environments to her advantage. The aliens were trying to fight a conventional battle in an environment designed for guerrilla warfare. Santos to Rodriguez, she reported over the tactical network. First wave neutralized. 17 confirmed kills, 3 wounded. Moving to secondary position on Platform Charlie, Staff Sergeant Williams was having similar success with his own welcoming committee. His position overlooked the main docking bay where 3 assault shuttles had landed simultaneously, disgorging 60 Hive warriors into what their tactical analysis had identified as a critical control node. Williams had other ideas. He triggered the industrial atmospheric recycling system that he and his team had modified over the past 3 days. Instead of processing breathable air, the system now pumped a mixture of industrial solvents and combustible gases into the sealed environment of the docking bay. The explosion when he fired a single tracer round was visible from 3 platforms away. Williams to all units, and he reported with professional calm. Docking Bay Charlie is no longer operational. Estimate 40+ enemy casualties. Commander Zolth watched his tactical displays with growing confusion and rage. His perfectly planned assault was disintegrating into chaos. Warriors who should have swept aside human resistance were being systematically eliminated by enemies who refused to fight according to established galactic conventions. How many humans are defending that platform? He demanded of his tactical officer. Sensors indicate 12 Marines, Commander, but their combat effectiveness is far beyond our projections. Southex's mandibles clicked furiously. 12 humans have eliminated over 60 of our warriors. This is impossible. What the Hive commander didn't understand was that his warriors were encountering Marines who had learned their trade in environments where a single mistake meant death. The humans weren't just fighting, they were hunting. Sergeant Major Rodriguez moved through the maintenance tunnels of Platform Alpha like a predator stalking prey. She had memorized every corridor, every junction, every hiding place during the 3 days of preparation. The Hive warriors, despite their technological advantages, were fighting in an environment designed by humans for humans. She found her targets in the Central Processing Unit, where 15 warriors were trying to establish a command post. They had taken defensive positions around the main computer terminal. Energy weapons trained on the obvious approach routes. It was textbook galactic military doctrine. Secure the objective. Establish fields of fire. Wait for reinforcements. Rodriguez attacked from above. The maintenance shaft she had been crawling. Through opened directly over the enemy position. Her first grenade, a mining charge modified with shrapnel, landed in the center of their formation before any of the warriors realized they were under attack from an unexpected direction. The explosion turned their perfect defensive position into a killing ground. Rodriguez dropped through the access hatch, her assault rifle already firing as she fell. 3 warriors died before she hit the deck. The remaining 12 tried to react, but they were fighting an enemy who had learned urban warfare in the tunnels of Siri Station, where every corridor could hide death. It was over in less than 30 seconds. Rodriguez stood among the alien bodies, checking her ammunition count out of habit. 15 rounds expended, 12 enemies eliminated. Not her best work, but acceptable under the circumstances. Rodriguez to all units, she broadcast. Platform Alpha Command Center is secure. Casualty report. The responses came back with the professional brevity of Marines who had been in similar situations before. Martinez on Platform Delta had eliminated 2 squads attempting to breach the power generation facility. Johnson and Kim had turned the asteroid processing machinery into a weapons platform that was systematically destroying incoming shuttles. Wilson had rigged the water recycling systems to flood entire sections with superheated steam. Most importantly, not a single Marine had been killed. 3 wounded, all minor injuries that didn't affect combat effectiveness. The aliens, meanwhile, had lost over 200 warriors without achieving a single objective. Commander Zuthek stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. His assault force was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that should have been overwhelmed in the first 10 minutes of combat. The humans weren't just winning. They were making his elite warriors look like amateur recruits. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the human position. Put it through." Zuthek snarled, his mandibles clicking with rage. Sergeant Major Rodriguez appeared on the main screen, standing in what was clearly the command center she had just taken from his warriors. Behind her, human Marines moved with the calm efficiency of professionals going about their daily business. She looked directly into the camera with the expression of someone who had just completed a routine training exercise. "Commander Zalk," she said politely, "I wanted to thank you for the live fire exercise. My Marines haven't had proper combat training in almost 6 months." The alien commander's compound eyes bulged with fury. "This is not a training exercise, human. This is war." "Oh, I know," Rodriguez replied, her voice carrying the kind of calm that made experienced NCOs nervous. "I just wanted you to understand what you're dealing with before you send any more of your people to die." She gestured to the tactical display behind her, which showed the locations of his remaining forces. "You have approximately 400 warriors left in this system. My 50 Marines have eliminated over 200 of your people in less than 2 hours. At this rate, we'll be done with you by dinner time." Southek's rage was reaching dangerous levels. "You cannot possibly believe you can win this engagement." Rodriguez's smile was like winter ice. "Commander, winning was never the objective. The objective was to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten human civilians." Mission accomplished. The transmission cut to static, leaving Zeltek staring at a blank screen around him. His command crew waited for orders. But the Hive commander was beginning to understand that he was no longer fighting a police action against inferior opponents. He was fighting 50 human Marines who had turned his overwhelming technological advantage into an elaborate death trap, and they were just getting started. The second wave of the Hive assault came 6 hours after the first wave had been eliminated. Commander Zaltek had spent those hours reviewing tactical data, consulting with his military advisors, and trying to understand how 50 humans had destroyed a force that should have overwhelmed them with minimal casualties. The conclusion his tactical computers reached was impossible to accept. The humans were fighting with a level of skill and adaptability that exceeded the most elite units in the galactic military. More disturbing was their apparent willingness to fight to the death, rather than surrender when faced with overwhelming odds. "Begin orbital bombardment," Zeltek commanded from the bridge of his dreadnought. "Target all platforms and installations. If we cannot take them intact, we will destroy them." The massive energy weapons of the Hive fleet began charging their targeting systems, locking onto the mining platforms where the human Marines had made their stand. It was a brutal solution, but one that would finally end this embarrassing situation. That's when Master Sergeant Thompson revealed why he had spent the last 6 hours rigging every piece of equipment in the system. The mining platforms weren't just defensive positions. They were massive bombs waiting to be triggered. Thompson had connected the asteroid processing machinery, the fusion reactors, and the chemical refinement systems into a network of destruction that would make orbital bombardment inadvisable for anyone who wanted to survive the experience. "Thompson, to all units," he broadcast calmly, initiating Broken Arrow Protocol. "All personnel to minimum safe distance." The Broken Arrow Protocol was a creation of human military doctrine that the aliens had never encountered. The deliberate destruction of your own position to deny it to the enemy. When Platform Delta's fusion reactor overloaded in a carefully controlled sequence, the explosion was visible from the next star system. The blast wave caught 2 Hive cruisers that had moved too close for orbital bombardment. These ships' shields absorbed most of the energy, but the electromagnetic pulse that followed crippled their targeting systems and communications arrays. More importantly, it demonstrated that the humans were prepared to destroy everything rather than allow the aliens to claim victory. "They're insane," whispered Zalt's tactical officer as he watched the expanding cloud of debris that had once been Platform Delta. "They destroyed their own installation." "Not insane," corrected Senior Analyst Vector. who had been studying human psychological profiles since the crisis began. Determined. This is consistent with human historical behavior when faced with superior force. They often choose to inflict maximum casualties on their enemies regardless of personal cost. Zotek stared at the tactical display, trying to process what he was seeing. The humans had just demonstrated that they would rather die than surrender, and that they possessed the technical capability to turn industrial equipment into weapons of mass destruction. This was no longer a police action. It was a fight for survival against an enemy that redefined the concept of acceptable losses. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving multiple transmissions from the human positions. They appear to be broadcasting on open channels." "Put them through." The main screen filled with the faces of human Marines, speaking directly to the camera. Staff Sergeant Chen sat calmly in his sniper position, his rifle trained on the alien fleet. "This is Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen, 3rd Recon Battalion. I've confirmed kills on 17 alien warriors and 3 shuttlecraft. Still have ammunition remaining." The display switched to Corporal Santos, who is treating a minor wound while keeping watch for enemy movement. "Corporal Lisa Santos, same unit. 23 confirmed kills, 0 Marines lost. The bugs fight pretty, but they don't adapt well to changing conditions." One by one, the Marines reported their status with the professional detachment of soldiers who had accepted their fate, but intended to make their deaths expensive. The psychological impact on the Hive forces was devastating. These weren't desperate civilians pleading for mercy. They were predators calmly discussing their hunting success. The final transmission came from Sergeant Major Rodriguez, speaking from the command center of Platform Alpha. Behind her, the remaining Marines went about their work, with the calm efficiency of professionals preparing for another day at the office. "This is Sergeant Major Elena Rodriguez addressing the Hive Collective Battle Group. You came here expecting to face weak, poorly trained humans who would flee at the first sign of superior force. Instead, you found United States Marines." She paused, letting that sink in. "I want you to understand what that means. Every Marine in this system has survived conflicts that would have broken most galactic military units. We fought in environments where your species couldn't survive for 5 minutes. We faced enemies with superior numbers, superior technology, and superior positions. And we've won by refusing to accept defeat." Rodriguez stepped closer to the camera, her expression deadly serious. "You've lost over 300 warriors trying to capture 5 humans. That's not because we're lucky. It's because we're better at this than you are. War isn't about having the best equipment or the largest fleet. War is about breaking the enemy's will to fight. And humans don't break." The transmission ended, leaving Zal's command bridge in stunned silence. Around him, his officers processed the implications of what they had just heard. The humans weren't just fighting. They were teaching the galaxy a lesson about the difference between technological superiority and combat effectiveness. "Commander," said his tactical officer quietly, "our warrior casualties are approaching 50%. At current rates of attrition, we will have no effective assault capability within 12 hours. Zach's mandibles clicked in frustration. "How is this possible? Our warriors are the finest soldiers in the galaxy. They have conquered a dozen worlds." "Yes, sir," replied Analyst Vector. "But those worlds were defended by species that fought according to galactic military conventions. The humans are fighting according to human conventions, which appear to prioritize inflicting casualties over preserving their own lives." It was a concept that challenged everything the Hive Collective understood about warfare. In galactic civilization, combat was conducted according to established protocols designed to minimize casualties and preserve valuable resources. Surrender was acceptable when defeat became inevitable. Negotiation was preferable to mutual destruction. Humans apparently had never received that memo. The turning point came when Corporal Williams announced his discovery over the tactical network. "All units, this is Williams. I've accessed the alien shuttle navigation systems. These things have hyperspace communicators that are linked directly to their fleet command structure." Sergeant Major Rodriguez understood the implications immediately. "Can you access their communications network?" "Already done." "Sergeant Major, I'm looking at real-time tactical assessments being transmitted to the Galactic Council. They're reporting massive casualties and requesting immediate reinforcement." Rodriguez felt a cold smile spread across her face. "Patch me through to their command frequency. All channels, maximum broadcast power." Within minutes, her transmission was being received, not just by the Hive battle group, but by every major military installation within 50 light years. The message that went out would change the galaxy's perception of humanity forever. This is Sergeant Major Elena Rodriguez, United States Marine Corps, broadcasting to all galactic forces. You are watching the systematic destruction of a Hive Collective battle group by 50 human Marines armed with primitive weapons and improvised equipment. This engagement was supposed to be a simple police action against an inferior species. She gestured to the tactical displays showing the one-sided casualty reports. The Hive Collective has lost over 300 elite warriors, human casualties, 0 killed, 4 wounded. We are not superior because of our technology or our numbers. We are superior because when humans decide to fight, we fight toe-in regardless of cost. The transmission ended with a simple message that would echo through galactic military minds for generations to come. Earth remembers its children. Commander Zeltek stared at his tactical displays, watching Ashi's supposedly superior force continue to be dismantled by an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. For the first time in his military career, he was beginning to understand fear. The emergency session of the Galactic Council, convened 18 hours after Sergeant Major Rodriguez's broadcast, reached the civilized galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the crystalline chambers, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and electromagnetic pulses that the translation system struggled to process. High Counselor Vexani of the Psionic Dominion called for order, her mental voice cutting through the chaos with authority that commanded immediate attention. We are here to address the situation in the Kepler 442 system, where a Hive Collective battle group has suffered catastrophic losses to a small human force. Ambassador Zakthara, who'd originally proposed the ultimatum to humanity, stood before his peers with his compound eyes dimmed in what his species displayed as shame, honored counselors. The tactical reports from Commander Zeltek are difficult to accept. Our intelligence assessments regarding human military capabilities appear to have been fundamentally flawed. Admiral Corks of the Predator Alliance leaned forward, his scaled hide reflecting the chamber's ambient light. His species understood warfare better than most, and the implications of the ongoing battle were not lost on him. You assured this council that humans were weak, poorly trained, and equipped with primitive weapons. The evidence suggests otherwise. The holographic display in the center of the chamber showed real-time tactical data from the Kepler 442 system. The numbers were sobering. Over 400 Hive warriors eliminated, multiple assault shuttles destroyed, and 2 cruisers damaged by industrial explosions. Human casualties remained at 0 killed, with only minor wounds among the defending force. Perhaps, rumbled Gordakov, the Granite Confederacy, we should reconsider our assessment of human military doctrine. Their soldiers appear to fight with a level of determination that exceeds our previous encounters with their species. Counselor Nexus 7 of the machine. Consciousness accessed vast databases of information, his optical sensors flickering as he processed data at superhuman speeds. Analysis of human historical records reveals a pattern of military behavior that our initial assessments failed to consider. Human warfare is characterized by asymmetric tactics, adaptive strategies, and an apparent willingness to accept casualties that other species would consider unacceptable. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The assembled representatives of galactic civilization were beginning to understand that they had badly underestimated humanity's capacity for violence. There is another consideration, added High Counselor Vixani, her mental voice carrying undertones of concern. The humans' broadcast was received by every military installation within 50 light years. Word of this engagement is spreading throughout the galaxy. Ambassador Zekar's mandibles clicked nervously. What is the significance of this information distribution? The significance, replied Admiral Corex with the certainty of a predator recognizing another apex species, is that every civilization in the galaxy now knows that humans can and will fight. More importantly, they know that humans can win. In the depths of space, the battle for Kepler 442 continued with increasing intensity. Commander Zalfik had committed his remaining forces to a final assault, throwing everything he had at the human positions in a desperate attempt to salvage some victory from the disaster his operation had become. It was not going well. Master Sergeant Thompson had turned the remaining mining equipment into a network of automated defensive systems that engaged targets with the precision of military hardware and the destructive power of industrial machinery. Asteroid processing lasers designed to cut through solid rock, proved equally effective against alien armor. Chemical refinement systems that normally separated valuable minerals from ore now produced clouds of corrosive gas that dissolved enemy equipment on contact. Thompson to all units. He reported with the calm professionalism of someone discussing routine maintenance. Automated defenses are engaged. Enemy approach vectors are covered by overlapping fields of fire. Recommend all personnel maintain minimum safe distance. Staff Sergeant Chen had relocated his sniper position to take advantage of the chaos caused by Thompson's mechanical mayhem. From his new vantage point, he could engage targets across multiple platforms simultaneously. His rifle, firing projectiles at velocities that exceeded galactic weapon standards, reached out across the vacuum to touch alien warriors with the kind of precision that only came from years of practice. Chento Rodriguez, he reported. Confirmed kills now at 37. Enemy morale appears to be breaking. I'm seeing retreats without orders and defensive positions being abandoned. It was true. The Hive warriors bred for aggressive assault tactics and trained in conventional military doctrine were encountering an enemy that fought according to rules they had never learned. Human Marines didn't hold defensive lines. They created killing zones. They didn't engage in honorable combat. They set traps and struck from unexpected angles. Most disturbing of all, they didn't surrender when defeat became inevitable. They adapted and found new ways to inflict casualties. Corporal Santos was demonstrating this principle as she led 3 Marines through the maintenance tunnels beneath Platform Charlie. Her team had been cut off from the main defensive positions when a Hive assault force breached the outer perimeter. Instead of attempting to fight their way back to friendly lines, they had gone hunting. Santos to all units, she whispered over the tactical network. We have eyes on enemy command post Platform Charlie Level 7. 12 warriors in defensive positions, 1 officer directing operations. Request permission to engage. Rodriguez to Santos came the immediate reply. You are clear to engage. Make it count. Santos smiled as she checked her grenades. 3 mining charges modified with timer fuses and programmed for maximum fragmentation. She had learned this technique during the Ceres Station assault, where Marine teams had spent months clearing insurgent strongholds 1 room at a time. The modified charges landed in the enemy command post with the precision of someone who had done this before. The explosions that followed eliminated the entire Hive command structure on Platform Charlie, leaving their remaining warriors without orders or coordination. Santos to all units, she reported 30 seconds later. Enemy command. Post neutralized. 12 confirmed kills. Moving to secondary targets. Commander Zaltk watched his tactical displays with growing desperation as his carefully planned assault disintegrated into a series of isolated firefights that his forces were losing systematically. The humans weren't just defending. They were hunting his warriors through an environment that they had turned into a 3-dimensional maze of death. Sir, reported his tactical officer, we're receiving another transmission from the human position. Put it through, Zach commanded, dreading what he was about to hear. Sergeant Major Rodriguez appeared on the main screen, but this time she wasn't alone. Behind her stood the other 49 Marines of the 3rd Recon Battalion, their faces showing the calm satisfaction of professionals who had completed a difficult job successfully. Commander Zaltk, Rodriguez said formally, I wanted to inform you that your assault force has been eliminated. Our final count shows 612 confirmed kills with an unknown number of wounded who managed to retreat to your ships. Human casualties remain at 0 killed, 6 wounded. She paused, letting the numbers sink in. Your warriors fought bravely, but they were trained for a different kind of war. You came here expecting to face civilians and security guards. Instead, you found United States Marines who have spent their entire careers learning to kill people who are bigger, stronger, and better equipped than they are. South Compound eyes bulged with rage and despair. This cannot be possible. You are only 50 humans. 50 human Marines, Rodriguez corrected. There's a difference. We're not the largest, strongest, or most technologically advanced species in the galaxy, but when it comes to breaking things and killing people, we are very, very good at our job. The transmission ended, leaving Commander Zaltk staring at the tactical display that confirmed his worst fears. His battle group had been effectively destroyed by an enemy force 1/10 its size, using weapons that galactic civilization considered obsolete. For the first time in his military career, The Hive commander was beginning to understand why humans had earned their place among the stars. Months after the Battle of Kepler 442, the Galactic Council reconvened to address what historians would later call the human question. The crystalline chambers that had once echoed with dismissive laughter about humanity's military capabilities now hummed with nervous tension as representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss the implications of what 50 human Marines had accomplished. High Counselor Vexani of the Psionic Dominion stood before the assembled delegates, her mental voice carrying undertones of caution that every species could recognize. The events at Kepler 442 have fundamentally altered our understanding of human military capability. The tactical analysis reports have been distributed to all member civilizations, and the implications are significant. The holographic display showed the final casualty figures from the engagement. 847 Hive collective warriors eliminated, 2 cruisers severely damaged, and multiple assault craft destroyed. Human casualties 0 killed, 6 wounded, all returned to active duty within 2 weeks. The mathematical impossibility of those numbers had been verified by 3 independent analysis teams. Ambassador Zakthara, whose political career had effectively ended with his miscalculation about human weakness, spoke from his position in the gallery reserved for former council members. The intelligence failures that led to this engagement have been thoroughly investigated. Our assessment protocols for evaluating military capabilities are being completely revised. Admiral Corks of the Predator Alliance stood to address the assembly, his scarred hide telling the story of a warrior who understood combat from personal experience. The question before this council is not how the humans achieved their victory. The tactical reports make that clear. The question is what this victory means for galactic stability. He activated his personal display showing star charts that marked human colonies throughout the galaxy. Human expansion has accelerated significantly since Kepler 442. Their colonial requests have been approved without the usual bureaucratic delays. Trade agreements with human corporations are being negotiated with unprecedented urgency. Member species that once dismissed humanity as irrelevant are now actively seeking military cooperation agreements. It was true. The galaxy's perception of humanity had undergone a complete transformation in the 6 months since 50 Marines had held off an entire battle group. What had begun as a simple police action to enforce galactic law had become a demonstration of human military capability that no civilization could ignore. Counselor Nexus 7 of the Machine Consciousness presented his analysis with mechanical precision. Human military doctrine appears to be based on principles that differ fundamentally from galactic warfare conventions. Where we emphasize technological superiority and overwhelming force, humans emphasize adaptability and acceptable losses. Where we seek to minimize casualties through superior equipment, humans seek to maximize enemy casualties through superior tactics. The implications were sobering. Every major military power in the galaxy was re-evaluating their strategic assessments of human capabilities. More importantly, they were questioning their own military effectiveness against an enemy that fought according to different rules. There is another factor to consider, added High Counselor Vexani, her mental voice carrying subtle warnings. The humans who fought at Kepler 442 were not elite special forces or carefully selected warriors. They were standard colonial Marines assigned to routine security duties. This suggests that their demonstrated capabilities represent baseline human military competence, not exceptional performance. The chamber fell silent as representatives processed this information. If the Marines at Kepler 442 represented average human soldiers, what did that say about humanity's actual military potential? The answer came from an unexpected source. Director James Walsh of Human Special Operations Command had been granted permission to address the council. The first time a human military officer had spoken before the Galactic Assembly. Honored counselors, Walsh began, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who had spent decades making difficult decisions in dangerous places. I appreciate the opportunity to clarify some misconceptions about human military organization. He activated a holographic display showing the structure of human space forces. The Marines who fought at Kepler 442 represent approximately 0.3% of humanity's total military capability. They were colonial security troops trained for police actions and riot control. Their equipment was standard issue for garrison duty, not combat operations. The silence in the chamber was absolute as the implications sank in. The Marines who had destroyed a Hive battle group were essentially human military police armed with crowd control equipment and trained for law enforcement duties. Walsh continued with professional detachment. Human military doctrine recognizes several categories of combat personnel. Colonial Marines, like those at Kepler 442, are trained for defensive operations and civilian protection. Expeditionary Marines are trained for offensive operations in hostile environments. Recon Marines are trained for deep penetration and intelligence gathering. Special Operations Marines are trained for missions that officially don't exist. He paused, letting the information settle. The 50 Marines at Kepler 442 were the equivalent of your planetary security forces. They were not our elite troops. Ambassador Zekathar's compound eyes bulged as he processed what he was hearing. You are saying that your weakest soldiers defeated our strongest warriors. I'm saying that human military capability operates on different principles than galactic warfare. Walsh replied diplomatically. We don't field our strongest soldiers against every threat. We field soldiers who are appropriate for the mission parameters. Admiral Corks leaned forward, his predatory instincts recognizing the implications. What would have happened if you had sent your elite troops to Kepler 442? Walsh's smile was like winter ice. Admiral, with respect, that's not a question you want answered. The Marines who fought at Kepler 442 were trained to hold defensive positions and protect civilians. Our elite troops are trained to eliminate entire enemy command structures and leave no survivors to report what happened. The casual way he delivered this information was more terrifying than any threat. He was simply stating facts about human military capabilities with the same tone someone might use to discuss the weather. High Counselor Vixani spoke for the entire assembly when she asked, "What does humanity want from the galactic community?" Walsh considered the question carefully. The same thing we've always wanted, to be left alone to pursue our own development and peace. We have no territorial ambitions beyond our current colonial boundaries. We have no interest in galactic politics beyond trade agreements and scientific cooperation. We simply want to be recognized as a sovereign species, with the right to defend our citizens. And if that right is challenged again, then the galaxy will learn the difference between Marines who are trained for law enforcement and Marines who are trained for war. Walsh replied quietly, I hope that lesson won't be necessary. The emergency session ended with a unanimous vote to officially recognize humanity as a Category 5 military power, the highest classification in galactic law. Trade agreements were expedited, territorial disputes were resolved in humanity's favor, and diplomatic requests were processed with unprecedented efficiency. More importantly, the human question was answered definitively. Humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer determined by their technological limitations or small population. It was determined by a simple recognition that humans were very, very good at killing things that threatened them. The Battle of Kepler 442 became required study at every military academy in the galaxy, not as an example of technological superiority, but as a demonstration of what happened when superior training, adaptive tactics, and sheer determination met overwhelming but conventionally organized force. And in a small communications bunker on Earth's moon, Sergeant Major Elena Rodriguez finished writing her after-action report on the engagement that had changed humanity's place in the universe. Her conclusion was simple and direct. Mission accomplished. No Marine casualties. Enemy force eliminated. Ready for next assignment. It was exactly the kind of report that had made human Marines legendary throughout the galaxy. Professional, understated, and absolutely terrifying in its casual competence. The galaxy had learned to fear the humans who fought like demons and called it Tuesday.